Check, 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 check. Can I get all the organizers to come up to the front? Organizers? Organizers? Will, Marlena, Josh, Cass. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap one time. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap 2 times. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap 3 times. If you can hear the sound of my voice, clap 4 times. Thank you. Organizers, Will, Marlena, Josh, Cass, get up here. We're getting started. Everyone go ahead and take your seats. Check, 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 check. Can you hear me in the back? Is that clear? David, can you hear me? Cool. I'm gonna do. Cool. All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to DenverScript. We're back. Yeah. Thank you all for being here. And first of all, shouts out to the former organizers, Matt, Guillermo, Mike, several others. They kept it going for a very long time. And I said Mike. I don't have any notes. It's just okay. But yeah, they kept it going. They took a break, but we're trying to bring it back, and we're doing lightning talks. So first up, we're going to introduce all of the new organizers. I am CJ. I have a Twitch and YouTube channel called Coding Garden, where I live code and teach how to code. These days, I'm mainly writing Svelte, teaching a lot of React. Oh, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marlena. Hi. I'm currently looking for my next adventure, but I'm a full-stack developer. Worked a lot in ed tech, passionate about education, art, nature, all those fun, hippie things. So, yeah.
No, ooh. Hi, everyone. I'm Cass. It's so lovely to see all of your faces. I work at the Turing School of Software and Design. I'm a front-end engineering instructor. I am so very excited to be helping out with this, and I want to plug that there's a sandwich bar back there.
Hi, my name's Josh. I'm a Galvanize grad. Many of my former instructors are here. They are wonderful inspirations. My background, I was worked for a hospitality company pre-COVID, and most recently spent a little bit of time in Web3, mostly a full stack, and I am coming back to everything JavaScript now. I really love that. Will and I spent some time at a conference in Europe and got a chance to meet a lot of who's who in the industry, and I'm glad to be back, helping out best I can.
Thanks, Josh. And I'm Will Klein. I'm one of the co-organizers. I've been doing organizing of JavaScript meetups for like 10 years now, and this is my second one in Colorado. I also co-organize the React Denver meetup. And yeah, happy to help out CJ and everybody else, and really thankful that this meetup is restarting now.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Cool. First up, some ground rules and code of conduct. So if you visit denverscript.com/code-of-conduct, it has all of this in much more detail. I'm going to read you what's on the slide, because ultimately, we want to create a safe and fun and kind environment here. So first of all, we are dedicated to providing a harassment-free and community for everyone. Participants that violate the rules may be sanctioned or expelled from the community at the discretion of the DenverScript organizers. And if you are being harassed, notice that someone else is being harassed or have any other concerns, please contact one of the organizers that you just heard from. Also, if you don't want to do it in person, denverscript@gmail.com. We'll see that, and we'll take care of it. And then also some ground rules for the talks and everything. First rule, be kind. And also do not talk over the organizers and speakers. I appreciate you all getting round up and sitting down and all of that. And also during the Q&A, so each lightning talk is going to get 8 minutes to speak with 2 minutes for questions. If you're giving a lightning talk, You can go all the way to the 10 minutes, but there will be no time for questions. So if you want to have Q&A, then 8 minutes, 2 minutes for questions. But during that Q&A, I would like you all to ask constructive questions. Don't try to prove a point or like a gotcha or something like that. Just be nice and kind. It takes a lot of courage to get up here and give a talk, and also takes a lot of time to prepare a talk. So just be kind with your questions, and also be kind to the speakers. And also thanks to our sponsors. So first up, Code Talent provides the space. They are a technical recruiting agency, and I didn't come up with this, but I've heard it. They are recruiters that know the difference between Java and JavaScript. Oh, yeah. Cool. Yeah. Code-talent.com. There are also some representatives from them are also going to be giving a talk today. So definitely reach out if you're looking for a job as an employer or employee. And then also, we can thank React Denver for paying for the food. Can we get a round of applause for React Denver? Yeah. Visit reactdenver.com, has all the info, including upcoming meetups. You can sign up for their mailing list and all that good stuff. Is the mic okay? Is it? It's okay. It's pretty loud. Check. How's that? That's better, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. And also, we are looking for more permanent sponsors. So if you'd like to sponsor food or anything like that, give us a message at DenverScript@gmail.com. And we're always looking for speakers. So we should have some speakers lined up for the upcoming meetup. Yeah, in July. But we need more talks throughout the year. So if you have a talk, DenverScript.com has the link to submit. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Marlena. She's going to talk about some JavaScript news. Please give it up for Marlena. So you have two options. If you can click this on. Okay.
Sorry, everyone. I'm not going to stand. Some of you may have heard me take a tumble earlier. And of course, I hit the bad knee. They're both bad. But I hit the worst one. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some JavaScript news in the past month. And obviously, it's been a bit. There's been a lot of news since this meetup last met. So I really did try to limit it to June. And you can find all of these links on DenverScript.com if you want to follow up on any of them to see more details. So, no. All right. So the first one is some security news. Checkmarks discovered that S3 buckets, abandoned S3 buckets, were being used to inject malicious binaries into some NPM packages. So if you are using a library and it's going to be downloading files from anywhere, especially S3, be wary. The good news is that it's known, so now Node GIP is changing how it does things, as are libraries that rely on it. But it's good to know these things are happening. Also, the Stack Overflow 2023 developer survey results are here. There's a lot of really interesting things to look at in here. I think my favorite, obviously, would be, oh my God, that JavaScript is still the most used technology by far, for 11 years running, apparently. It's like it's the basis of the web or something. Some conference news. City.js conference is posting videos. When I went to their YouTube channel last, 14 hours ago. So they're still uploading as we speak. But there's lots of great talks in here for you to check out. And then from WWDC 23, Safari is trying, y'all. Safari's trying. So there's a bunch of new WebKit features that hopefully will make everybody's apps run better on Safari. Fingers crossed. As for upcoming conferences, TS Congress is in September. followed very shortly by JS Game Dev Summit. I mentioned these because they're fully online, and I love online first conferences because there's so much better access to the content. So those are some conferences to check out for September. We've got some fun releases. I'm not going to go through their changelogs, but you can check them out. TypeScript has 5.1, Node 20.3, Angular 16.1, Nest major version 10, Nightwatch major version 3, and Svelte 4. We've also got a new version of VS Code, and I think maybe my favorite, I will jump into this one, Chrome for testing. Has anyone heard about this? So they're basically going to let you get the exact Chrome version you want for download to test against, instead of the auto-updating, screwing up which version of Chrome you're testing on. And so this is something that they've hidden away from your average user, but we'll be able to get the version browser binaries for better control of our testing environment. And then some fun resources. TypeScript 5.2 is going to be bringing in using. This has to do with resource management, scoped resource management in JavaScript, which I think is kind of interesting. That's up and coming. Unsuck.js. Lightweight JavaScript libraries that don't use any compilers or packaging for nice lightweight JavaScript. Some information on debugging in Node.js. This is like a really, really nice walkthrough if you're new to Node. Concise and thorough. Another checklist about front-end pull requests. I love checklists. That's the main reason I added this. Let's take all of the memory out of it because we're gonna forget something. Naked JSX, if anybody's a big JSX fan, you can use JSX without the React and compile it to HTML with this. React server-side components from scratch. So this is going to, it's not completed yet, walk through building React server-side from scratch. If you want to know how it works under the hood from one of the core team members, this is the article to read. A way to check what CSS support a user's browser has so that your div doesn't fly off into the other. And then back to security for a little bit, an introduction to command injection vulnerabilities in Node and JavaScript, something that if you haven't dug into JavaScript security, I would highly recommend that you read. And that's the news I've got for you today.
Cool. So our first speaker, you don't know this, but you're going to know right now, Riley Scardina and Rita Povlich, you are up. And Steve Witman, you're on deck. So your first talk is going to be job search tips and tricks. So while we get set up, feel free to grab some food or drink. We'll probably get ready, go in about 1 or 2 minutes. Check.
setup.
Good? All right, please give it up for Riley and Rita.
Very official here. I love it. I'm Riley, and this is Rita. We both work at Code Talent. We both have experience internally, externally, and are here to basically, well, internally and externally, I mean recruiting. So we're here to help you and give you any advice that we can. We found that a lot of people are looking right now. It's kind of an unfortunate market. So we're just looking to add as much value as we can on maybe some tips and tricks and what you can do to kind of leverage your experience and get your dream job. It's definitely happening right now. You know, we're having lots of people find great jobs. So just keep going if you're doing it. And yeah, we'll go quickly so that people can ask questions if they'd like.
So resume tips, we kind of just broke down in bulleted points like what a resume should look like. So when you're adding content to your resume, you're gonna list your job history in reverse chronological format. So like describing your most recent jobs first and moving backward. Listing those technical skills clearly. Making sure you're highlighting things like collaboration, leadership, or any soft skills as well. And keeping those metric focused. So you wanna quantify anything relevant to your experience. So examples here are just kind of more focused on DevOps, but any way you could include like how many people you've led, what you've done in result of like scaling work or anything. You want to make sure you can quantify these things. Then be concise, so having those bullet points to describe your experience, and then having to customize a resume for each job opportunity we think is really important. So making sure you are highlighting your specific skills that are relevant to each job that you're applying to. So having one like standard resume and kind of tailoring that to what you're looking for. And also providing links is very important, so making sure your LinkedIn is up to date and reflects your resume, because there's a lot of times employers do want to look and see your LinkedIn and make sure it does match your resume, and then including a GitHub or any other links that you have to show your projects, contributions, and also having those recommendations on LinkedIn we find is very important. Then of course spelling and grammar as well, having someone proofread your resume.
All right, so I'll talk a little bit about interview prep. So often a job description is designed by the hiring team, and it's important to pay attention not just to the technical details, but a lot of times they're going to include, certain criteria that they're looking for. So it's important to like refresh, and I'll go into this, in a second with the STAR method, but basically make sure that you have a good understanding before you hop on a call of, kind of not just the must-haves, but the nice-to-haves, to be sure to refresh on that. So I don't know if everyone's familiar with the STAR method, but I find this interview prep method to be really useful. So you take a situation, a task, an action, and a response, and you can basically create a very concise answer. So if you're someone who's like long and rambly like me, it helps me to shorten my explanation, as well as someone who's maybe a little bit too concise. It can give you a little bit more depth. So how you can basically prep for an interview is you can come up with a behavioral interview question based off of that job description that you're reading. So if you take all the technical details to the side and say you're looking at some, someone is essentially, I think this might be the next slide, or nope, I don't have a slide on this. So if you see on a job description it says, looking for heavy collaboration skills, you can imagine that someone's going to ask you a question, a behavioral interview question like, tell me about a time where you had to work cross-functionally and you had to navigate, working across multiple teams or multiple personalities. So you can go through each job description and kind of like come up with some sample questions. And your basically your STAR method will help you to provide those answers. And as we mentioned, having a friend to practice. We have a blog post on our website that has a lot of interview links and basically some ways to prep. Let's see here. It's important when you are
going through the technical interview process to make sure that you're not just focused on solving the problem at hand, but it's a lot of how you're doing it, not what. So be sure to take your time, and a lot of times we see people are passed on simply because of how they collaborate with their fellow interviewers, or how they problem solve, not necessarily the problem that they're solving directly. So another thing that I guess we've both learned is sometimes people will bomb an interview and they'll do a pretty terrible job, but if they can explain at the end how they what their thought process was or how they should have gone about it, they've actually gotten the job. And I've seen that happen several times. It's very transparent and feedback driven conversation, and if people can take that feedback well, that's awesome. So some questions to keep in mind is, have you gathered your requirements? Do you know what you're doing? Are you checking in with your interviewer? Are you running out of time? Are you articulating throughout the process and showing that you're a good person to work with? Another thing that I think is really important is technical interviews, of course, are super draining, and we only have so much energy to do them. So often I've found that our guts are really good tools to guide us throughout the process. So if you find that you're not maybe aligned with a role and you're just signing up to do a technical interview to just do it, I would ask you to just pause and say, hey, I'm pursuing other ventures right now, can I get back to you in a couple weeks? Or you can come up with a nice way of doing it, but just take care of yourself throughout the process and pay attention to your gut, because often it will tell you. Oh wow, this runs through quickly. Should we?
Oh yeah, you can do that.
All right, so we only have 1 minute left. Oh wow, okay. Maybe we'll skip this one. So leveraging your network, especially right now, is really important. So following up with, say you have a company that you want to work for, following up with whoever your connection is at that company and doing it frequently, seeing what you can do for that person, or any of your connections. Can I buy you a coffee? How can I help you? How can I help you leverage your network? It's always, I find the philosophy of being a go-giver will reap more benefits than being a go-getter. Working with a recruiter. Let's see how many slides. Do we have how many more slides? Okay, perfect. We have 2. So here, you want to do that one?
And then we just kind of highlighted what it looks like, to work with a recruiter. If you've worked with a recruiter in the past or you currently are, definitely I think it is important to do your due diligence on your side. So looking at who you're working with, what does that recruiter's profile look like? Kind of how new are they to recruitment? And also adding people on LinkedIn to expand your network, to open new opportunities, and then also creating a spreadsheet of the jobs that you are applying for, recruiters that you're working with, to help you stay organized, and then following up as well. So just a couple points to highlight, but we did want to leave it open for questions.
Yeah, we have some compensation and just general data. Everyone should know that employers are not allowed to ask you what your current compensation is. Also, in these given states, you are they're supposed to be posting the salary ranges, so you can check out that info there. Here's our contact info. And does anyone have any questions? That was really, that was fast.
Try to fit as much.
Yeah.
Anyone had any questions, feel free.
Can you just speak into the mic, yeah, please?
Did I just hear you say, if they ask you what your current...
Oh yeah, hi.
Does this, okay, it works. I was curious, so if you live in Colorado and you're applying to a job somewhere else, do they still have to follow those guidelines as far as disclosing pay rate and stuff like that?
So from my understanding, it's where their office is located. Is that correct? Yeah. So
Okay.
So for these listed states, if they have offices or they are, is it headquartered?
Yeah, I believe
I think so. Yeah, out of these states, then they have to do the pay transparency. But unfortunately, yeah, that's about it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then you had a question.
Did I hear you say correctly if you do not have to reveal your current salary? Is that what you said?
Yeah. So it's actually illegal to ask someone's current compensation. So I might ask someone, we always fully disclose ranges. So I'll tell you, the compensation range is between, X, Y, and Z, but do you have a particular minimum that you want to hit? That's kind of like, me making sure that you're hitting every, target that you're looking for, but you do not have to disclose any compensation info. You can just say like, this is the range I'm looking for, and that's it. Yeah. All right, so this is our contact info. If anyone wants to write it down, ask us any additional questions. Yeah. Bye, thanks.
Steve, you're up next.
All right, great work, thank you.
Yeah. And Drew Conley, you're on deck. Drew, are you here? Cool. If not, this will clip. If you would like to do that instead.
Hello, everybody. Who here has a blog that they run? Who here has done a technical talk in person or online? And who has programming videos on their own YouTube channel? Okay, there's some of you. I found out I was doing this talk, or I decided to do this talk on Monday, so I spent Monday jotting down ideas and yesterday making some slides. So I kind of need to rely on some notes here. Tonight's talk is about content creation. Oh, and I want to say one thing quickly. There was just a job seekers discussion there, and I know there's a lot of people looking for jobs. First of all, don't let this be something that keeps you from doing the other stuff you need to do to find jobs, applying for jobs or keep coding or something like that. But if you have time, this can help. My name is Steve Witman. You can find my information there. I run the Angular Boulder meetup. I live in Boulder. I'm an Angular developer, and I'm a co-organizer of the Angular community online meetup. I just started an Angular content creators meetup. I'm an organizer of GDG Boulder. We've had one in-person event so far. And I made a personal project a couple years ago called ngnuggets.com. But the point of that is, though, for the past 2 years, I've been every single day collecting that day's Angular blogs, videos, and podcast episodes. So I'm just really aware of what's been being put out there every day and who's doing it and kind of the quality of each of those. And that kind of led me to tonight's talk here. I'm going to get past all those. Okay, so we're going to start with the reasons why or some of the benefits of content creation. To me, the learning is the most important. I'm sure you've heard teaching is the best way to learn. I believe content creation is pretty close because the content that you create is going to be usually some sort of documentation or instructional style. You can use this to demonstrate your knowledge. This is maybe the easiest way for somebody who is trying to find out about you to find out that you know something, and it can help you get interviews, help you get job offers, and maybe help you win clients. You are perceived as an expert. A lot of times your coworkers will begin to come to you for help and this could lead to some sort of lead role in your company. Networking opportunities. So by standing up here, you guys all kind of know something that I talked about. Maybe you feel a little bit more comfortable coming up and talking to me, so that it's just more likely that people will talk to you and know who you are. You'll build up yourself a reference library of content that you've created. You know where in the blog or video is the thing that you need to go refer back to. So it's really useful for you. Or if you're somebody comes up and asks you a question, you have something that you can point them to also. Technical communication. So this is, my point on this is that either your written content helps you organize your thoughts and maybe be more concise, and can help with emails or Slack messages or things like that at work. Any of the verbal type content, you're actually speaking some words that maybe you're just typing, coding all day and never actually say the word nullish coalescing or something like that until you're in an interview. And I've had that experience where I got my very first job interview. I realized I've never said any of these things out loud for the first time. So any chance you get to talk code, I say do it. Self-confidence can just help you in a lot of different ways. It'll make you more comfortable or make you think that you can even go apply for jobs, go on interviews, try to take on a client for work, or just talk to somebody, talk code, to somebody at a meetup like this. It always feels good to help other people, and by giving back to the community that, if you're a React or Svelte or Angular developer, by giving back to that community, it helps that community be stronger, and maybe that technology will be relevant for a little bit longer. Just kind of potentially helps your career overall. You can make money at this. It's possible to make money. Most people don't. And the benefits still can be financial, because you could and probably will have a better trajectory in your career. Okay, and then my next group of things here are some of the ways to create content. Is Wes Whitney here tonight? I saw him on the list. He was a classmate of mine at Galvanize several years ago. And he has a blog here. But anyways, blogs are, first of all, it's the easiest thing to start. You can just use dev.to. It's a blogging framework that's already there. It's free. You can, or you can roll your own, something more custom if you want. You can begin by just taking notes or starting with drafts. And at the same time, you are learning things. Speaking. This is Will Klein. When I prepared this talk, I looked at the talks and I kind of like, oh wait, there's somebody I know, there's somebody else I know, and so there's a little bit of that mixed in here. Speaking, I'm not good at this, and it's scary. I've heard that even the best people at this are still scared, but you can commit to doing just a talk, and then it's going to be hectic for the next month or two until you finally give that talk, and then it's over. That's something you could pull off. Most people won't do a talk, so if you do, you're kind of setting yourself apart. Meetups like this are a perfect place to do your first talk, or first few talks. You can talk on something that you know already, or on a topic that you don't know anything about. During COVID, when I had to keep making online talks for that Angular Boulder meetup, I just kept picking topics that I just didn't know anything about, went and learned about it for a month and prepared a talk, and in doing that, I just learned a ton of stuff. And I would suggest trying to reuse your talks. If you do a talk here, try to do it at a different meetup somewhere else. Videos, I'm not going to talk too much about this. YouTubing, you need potentially, you can get started with just your laptop, but usually you want to get a better mic, maybe learn about lighting, learn the tools that you're going to use to make your videos. live streaming. We have CJ. He's the best live streamer that I know. And so live streaming is kind of a level up or a combination of public speaking and making videos. You definitely, well, you can do this for your very first time, but it helps if you're good at live coding. One thing that kind of draws me to this is that it seems like potentially, once you kind of are comfortable doing this, you could just, at your time to live stream, go up, turn on your computer, and just start going. You don't necessarily have to prepare content. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Podcasting. Who here has not listened to this podcast? A few of you? Okay. So, as far as I know, this is the best programming podcast in the world, probably. And I think one of the speakers on this podcast, I think, is going to be standing here in a few minutes talking to you. Podcasts are maybe not ideal for code because you're just talking, kind of like radio. You don't see code that you're talking about. But I think it's still super relevant because people do listen to podcasts, and it's a great way, at least for me, to still be learning about code, listening about code while I'm at the gym or driving to just places where I can't do any other kind of content. Books, I'm not going to say much about this, but it would be really cool to have a book. And courses can also be lucrative or not. You can try to sell your own, or Kim, I believe, makes a living making content for her employers that she's worked at. Of both books and courses, I guess one of the downsides is that those can become stale or out of date relatively quick, kind of in the coding world. And my final thoughts are just a couple more. Start small. If you want to get started, just start blogging or any one of these. Just go ahead and start it. And you can just stay small. That you'll still get a lot of benefit from that, or you can decide to go big. And I believe that's it.
Time for questions or no? No. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
All right, Drew Conley, you're up. And thank you, Steve. That was great.
Thanks.
Just want to remind you all, if you see someone with a specific dot, they're looking for a job, and then if you see another dot, they're hiring. So be sure to look out for that. What's that? Teal is hiring, orange is seeking. Is there anything else I need to say right now? Cool. Do you want a handheld mic or click?
Does anybody know how to flip the thing that like puts my slides up here instead of the speaker view thing? Is there like a sick hotkey for that? Oh, like on top of, how do you do that? Sweet. Okay, cool.
Check, check, check. All right. Your next speaker is Drew Conley, who's going to be speaking about making awesome browser games with Excalibur. Please give it up.
Yay. Cool. Yeah, so thanks for having me. This is building browser games with Excalibur JS, and my name's Drew. I'm going to talk about this library that I just recently discovered. It's called Excalibur. It's a really great utility for making 2D games in the browser. And just for the record, I don't have any affiliation with this library. This isn't mine. I don't contribute to it. I'm just a super fan of it. I just discovered it. Oh, no. Oh, there it is. OK. A couple weeks ago, I discovered it. I just want to talk about it for like a couple minutes and then show you 2 demos I made just to show you like what you can do quickly with it. I forgot to ask my question. Anybody here interested in game development, like making your own games? Ever thought about pursuing it? Cool. Awesome. So, me too. I have 1 game on Steam and more on the way. This is a game that a friend and I made called Danger Crew. We actually built it all in React, just in the browser. And then at the very last second, we realized that we could package it up with Electron and then kind of like distribute it as an app. So that kind of was like, oh, sweet, now we can put this on Steam. And it was, oh, shoot, OK. Am I doing that, or is that just? Let me get you another deck. OK. Different dongle.
Yeah, let's see. Actually, do you have it? No, you don't.
No, these are bare bones. These new ones. All right. Oh, nice. OK, cool. We're back. Anyway, so 1 game on Steam, more on the way. It was kind of an introduction to like commercial game development for us that we didn't really expect was possible when we were just making a browser game. Because the thing is, like, when you are choosing to make a game, you have so many good options. There's Unity, Game Maker Studio, Godot. I've tried all these things. Now, after that game's been out, I did like a tour around the world, and I was like, OK, what am I missing by not using these like real game engines, right? And so built a lot of things with all of them. My heart keeps coming back to JavaScript. It's just so great to work with. Like we saw on the previous slide, like a ton of people use it. The tooling for it has gotten so good that it's just like it's a fantastic way to work. These other engines are very powerful, but they can be very clunky too, and you often don't get that like fluid workflow that we're really used to when we're making websites and stuff. Where Excalibur comes in is that this library can like give you a lot of the features and patterns that you'd find in a game engine like Unity. Okay, sorry. I could just like flip my laptop around if you don't. That would work too. Right, so game engine-y like features. Excalibur gives you a lot of stuff. I'll wait for the slide to come back. Do a little like something to pass the time. Stick in my.
Browser game impression from 1950.
From I don't know what that sounds like. Oh, we're trying something else? Okay. Okay. Almost there. Papa. Different approach. Okay, cool. Okay.
Mirror the display now. Actually, it might be if you click do you have a display icon up there?
No.
Okay, so same thing. If you go to displays and then arrangements. Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's behind me, isn't it? Oh, shoot. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. Sure.
So we're here. We're here.
Mirror.
We're here.
Mirror. Okay, sweet. Okay, because now, okay. And okay, we're back. Yeah! Not how I thought this was going to go, but that's okay. Rolling with it. Anyway, so, right. I like building games in JavaScript. It's awesome. It's a cool thing. Excalibur JS, the library that's over here, gives you a lot of features that you'd find in game engines like Unity, GameMaker, et cetera. So moving on, some of those features are that it has a really strong game object system. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more on the next slide. And then it comes with some basic stuff like 2D graphics, a nice camera system for having the camera like follow your characters around and stuff. The big thing is physics, where like if you're just going to roll your own game with JavaScript, you can go really far just doing like graphics yourself and some visual tricks to pull off like the camera thing. Once you understand like how it works, it's like not too bad. But physics is different because physics is something that you can like really kind of easily mess up. So if you're thinking about building something that has like gravity or collisions or something, this is like a really nice thing to just pull off the shelf. I forgot to mention too, Excalibur is just like a library that you get from like NPM or a CDN, however you want. You just install it into your project like you do anything else. So pretty easy to opt into. And then TypeScript fans, it's all written in TypeScript. So the code just like flows, the auto-completing, like when you're figuring out how to use it, it's just like very easy to pick up. So to think about, say we want to build something like this in Excalibur, the first step is to think kind of like you'd take something apart to build like a component-based website or something. We start like drawing boxes around things. Like this is an actor, a game object. Actor is Excalibur's term for that. It's like a character. Here's like a coin that you could pick up. Here's a thing, like a chair that you could walk into that takes up like space in the world. And then like a pizza shop or something. You basically tell Excalibur what all these different actors or game objects are. And so let's see. To do that, you start with some like basic behavior configuration, like how big is this thing? Like if it has collisions, like you give it kind of like a coordinate box, and that's how big it is. If you want to opt into collisions, there's a few different collision types. Like it comes with like a very basic mode where think like Mario just kind of like lands on a platform when he lands on it. Or you can opt into a more complex but more expensive system that's more like objects like bounce off each other. It's like a little bit more realistic. Excalibur comes with a game loop that's constantly running. And so 60 times per a second, it's going to run a little bit of code that the actors can all opt into. So that's called your on pre-update. And that's where like you do stuff like, okay, I'm holding the left key down, and so now I'm like walking, my velocity is changing, that kind of thing. And then finally, it has a really good event system. So say two actors are like overlapping, you'll get a nice clean callback like when they're overlapped. And so you want to like collect the coin or something, it's like, boom, it just happened. So anyway, that's pretty nice to work with. As far as configuring your actors, like what do they look like? We have a really nice sprite sheet API. And so it looks like this, where you start with just like one baked PNG image. It's got a bunch of different frames on it. You configure like how many columns and rows this thing is to kind of tell the game engine, like here's what we're dealing with. And then from there, it'll give you indexes back. Like this is frame like 0, 1, 2, 3. It just kind of like orders them as it goes. And then from there, you can create different sequences. So like the walking animation is like this row, or the standing still animation is just like this frame by itself. And then in that game loop code is where you tell it like, okay, you're moving, so use this sequence versus a different sequence, that kind of thing. And then just one thing that I really like about using this library is that it's just here to do the canvas drawing part, like putting objects on screen and making sure they're moving around and stuff. It has no opinions if you want to like bring your own UI. So if you got like a complicated menu in mind or something, you can totally like put that on top of Excalibur and it's like totally happy, doesn't care. So that's how the engine works. I've got 2 quick demos to show you. They're kind of like 2 different game types. We're gonna see how this goes. Anybody play this game growing up, Mega Man? Cool, right? Okay, so Mega Man here, he's in blue. I'm gonna try to not duck or block anything. He is an actor himself, right? So he's tied into that game loop. If I hold the left key down, he'll start walking. I've got sounds, can you hear that? Yeah. Pretty cool, that comes with the engine out of the box. Notice he's also like smart about his velocity and his animation, right? So anytime he's in the air, that code knows like, okay, show the jumping sequence because his velocity y is like not 0. He can shoot too, right? So hit the X key. He's constantly spawning little mini actors that are just more game objects. They have velocity and they're like just going somewhere trying to find, it's that way for you, sorry. They're finding something to glide to. So if I just like keep walking, we got like enemies and stuff, more types of game objects. If Mega Man collides with a bullet, he like has a damage state, and then that tells him, like you're damaged, so your velocity should be moving backwards right now, that kind of thing. We can fight back real quick. Keep walking. There's something I want to show you because it's oddly difficult to get right, and that's these ladders that seem really simple, but in any game engine, doesn't matter what you use, ladders are always like a pain in the butt. Basically, if he's in the air and then you hold the up key down, he'll enter a climbing state. So let's see if I can do that. So then when that happens, he's like, yo, I'm climbing, so just shut off from all the velocity, right? So my Y velocity, opt out of gravity, like no more gravity, which is pretty cool. And then one final thing, I mentioned it, but Excalibur, the library, comes with a really nice camera system. So right now, maybe you've noticed, it's just like following him on the x-axis, but as he jumps, the camera's not like jumping with him. But say you go to the top of the ladder, you can tell it like, hey, when I get to this point, I want you to move your Y point just like way up there, and don't just jump there though, like tween to it. And so that's gonna happen here. So you get those cool kind of like Mega Man-y transitions, which is cool. So anyway, the library makes it very easy. It comes with really good defaults and stuff, but it makes it really easy to extend it and give it your own custom behavior just like that. Only a couple lines of code. Finally, I have that damage thing wired up to the space bar, so it'll just kill him. Another example of just game objects, right? Like he dies, it spawns a new explosion kind of game object. It just like does its animation, and then it's done, and then the level restarts. So anyway, that's the first demo, Mega Man. The next one, anybody play this game before? Cool, right? Link's Awakening style, like classic Game Boy Color. Same idea, different type of game style. This is a top-down game, so we're not talking about gravity or anything. It's just an actor, and he has velocity based on the movement of the arrow keys that you got going on. He has physics too, so like these walls he can't pass through them because like the collision bodies that the library gives you are like doing their thing. And then there's also this like add moblin button, which is cool, so you can spawn an enemy. Same thing, he kind of like picks a position and roams there. If they collide like that, Zelda gets damaged. And so you can like beat him up, and that's cool. But the thing about this game is that it's not a single player game, it's actually a multiplayer game. So I hope this works. You need, okay, it's working, cool. So, wild, right? Disclaimer, the multiplayer part here has nothing to do with the game engine I'm talking about. That's a library called JS. Anybody used that before or heard of it before? Basically, what's happening is when someone joins the session, it creates a new peer-to-peer connection with like anybody else that's connected. And so those connections can send data back and forth. But because the game engine makes it so easy to like just update objects and pipe new data into them, just like anytime a browser tab receives a new update, it just like updates that game object, and then we effectively see the same thing. So like if I'm this character and I'm like shooting arrows, see how it's all like synced up. The other thing that syncs up is these moblins. So PvP, it gets very chaotic, very fast. And so anyway, this is just very basic introduction to Excalibur JS. If you're interested in doing game development, this is a fantastic way to start. Remember, you always have that option too. If you want to make a game and like ship it to Steam or something, you can totally wrap it with Electron, and like the other options in that space are just getting better all the time. So that's all I got for you. Thanks so much. I don't know, is there questions? If not, I got all the code to this if you want to check it out, and then we can talk after if you got like specific questions. So, cool.
All right, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Lisa Cloutier, you're up next. Lisa? Cool. And then Scott, you're on deck, wherever you are. Cool. 10-minute break.
Oh, give me your mic there. So.
Check. This is your 2-minute warning. Go ahead and wrap up your conversations, take your seats. We're going to get started in 2 minutes.
Huh?
How do you say your last name?
Cloutier.
Cloutier. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Nobody says it right, so. Okay. Okay, got it. Thank you.
All right, 30-second warning. 30 seconds. Getting started in about 30 seconds. Go ahead and take your seats. All right. Lisa Cloutier is giving a talk on what is data engineering. So please give a warm welcome.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa. A little bit of background. I was originally a network engineer, and the last 6 years that I was with the telecom company I was with forever, I did traffic and capacity analysis and planning for all of the 4G pools at Verizon Wireless. So I kind of got myself into a niche where I was moving data around all the time and became more of a data engineer than a network engineer. So when I got laid off from there, I decided to transition into doing this. And this speech is kind of reflective of my experience with data engineering. Other people may have different experience, that's totally fine, but this is kind of my perspective. So what is data engineering? A diverse discipline because you have to know a lot of stuff. The job, ads for these roles are like 3 pages long, and they really do. I mean, I've added some stuff here that it's kind of like soft skills, but I'm not joking that when you kind of have to hit, especially if you're in a leadership position, you kind of have to hit all of this stuff, at least have a basic understanding of how it works and how to communicate with other experts on it, right? So like, for example, at my current job, I'm learning Kubernetes because that's what my DevOps putting together for me, and he's like, you need to learn to troubleshoot this by yourself. I'm like, got it, okay, so I'm learning Kubernetes now. And that's just how it rolls. Like you have to, there's CI/CD involved, there's, pipelines, just a lot of domain knowledge. But I kind of like the bottom part of this, analysis, analytics, and statistics. You really do have to have some basic understanding of math and how statistics works. And a lot of people that get into it just kind of have a natural affinity for these types of things, and then they kind of dive deeper into it. Semantics and the art of definition, so important to be able to work with your organization to drill down to what are the things we want to measure? How do we count those things? Do we have that defined in our database? If the answer to that question is no, you can't count it in an automated way. So that creates kind of a situation where you're working with the business to help them define what they're going to do. And then lastly, business. You have to know how businesses work if you're doing analytics, and especially business intelligence, right? So there's just a lot of stuff. Okay, a little history. I didn't size these properly because you couldn't see, but please notice the dates. I mean, the first one is 40 years, where we had a domain that was big governments, big companies. They were doing analytics on a broad basis because they were the only ones that had the resources to do so. So at that time, if you were a specialist, if you worked for IBM for a really long time, you were going to get deep into analytics and data cubes and all this kind of stuff, right? So what happened? What was the big change? We had the rise of big data, right? In 2010, Google open sourced Hadoop, which was their own internal way of managing map and reduce on a hardware level, and they open sourced that and the software that went with it, which meant companies with resources could now access that. But Hadoop's very resource intensive. What else did we have happen kind of 2010 to 2015? Target predicts pregnancy. I think, does anybody remember this? Yeah. People started going nuts, right? They knew that these women were going to be pregnant by their predictive stats on what they bought. Like, this blew everybody's mind, right? And so, like, another thing that was really big during this time frame, Facebook. What were they doing? Targeted ads, right? They had such deep analytics on people that they were actually able to target ads to them directly. Very, very advanced analytics. And then when 2012, Snowflake was founded. So Snowflake is now one of the dominant cloud data warehouses. But that was their founding. That was in 2012. And so as we move forward, and these timeframes are a little fuzzy. Don't kill me on timeframes. But 2015 to 2020, the cloud exploded. And medium-sized companies are now running Hadoop clusters. Now, when I was interviewing in 2019, I did not have any Hadoop experience. I got rejected over and over and over again because that's what companies wanted at this time. So that was 2019. So we have medium-sized companies running Hadoop clusters, and the cloud becomes king during this time. Everybody wants to move into the cloud. And if you're not running analytics, you're behind. I've said this in interviews. It was said to me in interviews when I was doing this stuff. And so companies were aware of this now. They want to be in the analytics space. They want that business intelligence, operational intelligence. And then we moved to a 2-year time frame, 2020 to 2022. COVID hit. Snowflake introduced their service tiers. Small companies can now afford to do data warehousing on a broad level. And there are not enough data engineers. Like, the field really just kind of fell wide open at this point. I started working with cloud data engineering in 2021 as part of this big chasm that kind of opened up that you could get in relatively easily. And then today, we have the modern data stack, an explosion of tools to fill in for the lack of engineers in this space. And what has happened? So if you're a business without data experience, how do you know what you need out of this stack? It's impossible. Like, I've been doing it and directly involved with it for a while, and I don't have knowledge of more than like maybe a quarter of these things, and only vaguely, right? And the 2023 run, which I couldn't find to put on here, is actually bigger. But like, I figured this was good enough to kind of just get that visual in your mind of like, just how much stuff there is to know, right? Okay, so I've talked a lot, but what is data engineering? Okay, so my personal definition, the purpose of data engineering is to architect and organize the delivery of data in a format that is appropriate for analysis. So we are cleaning data sets, we are automating data, we are delivering it to analysts and or ML operations that can then do their analysis because we've set that up for them. It is the foundation of analytics. That is what data engineering is for. And it involves a lot of different things: warehousing, quality, governance, data curation. My favorite thing, this is where the magic happens. I had the luck at Verizon Wireless of curating the same data set for 6 years. And we were able to do some amazing things with that data because we really understood it and we understood how it worked. Data has a behavior. You know, how does it behave? How do things fall out of it? These are all the things you learn when you work with a data set for a long time. Data delivery, that's really like the meat of what you're doing, is getting that data to the right place with the right stuff in it on a regular schedule so that, you know, it gets updated and is correct. And then data synthesis and democratization. So synthesis is what you do in the warehouse. It's where you pull together disparate data sources and create those analytics tables that can be used in analysis. So just a lot of things just focused around data. And then if you think about what businesses do with data and what kind of data they generate, you know, we can bring in data from 20 different systems sometimes and start trying to merge it all together and figure out different aspects of it. So that's pretty cool. So what's the biggest challenge in creating data for business practices? If your data is bad, your analytics will also be bad. I know this is a groundbreaking statement, but I have seen this I've seen a whole analytics departments fall apart over this. Like, all the data engineers just up and leave because there's no good data to work with. So, you know, one of my jobs is to help them fix that, right? Let's get the good data in place. And is data engineering accessible? I think it's difficult to get started in data engineering. There's like more junior positions open now, but if you saw the list of things you have to learn, you know, you're starting out extremely small and then you grow over time. Once again, my experience, most data engineers I know just fell into it, just like me. They were doing something other than that, and then they started having more data responsibilities stacked onto them, and then it just kind of became a thing. Siloing of talent experience is rampant. It's hard to get enough experience to fulfill all the things that you need to know to apply for jobs and be competitive in this space. And then I feel like there's a little bit of an identity crisis. It's like, what are you? Are you a software engineer? Are you an infrastructure engineer? Are you a backend engineer? And really, it depends on what company you're working for and what role you're filling for them, you know, to answer that question. So, yes, that's it. This is what my take on data engineering. So I hope you guys learned something. Thank you.
All right, we have time for one question. Does anyone have a question?
Do you have a favorite skill set?
Question is, do you have a favorite skill set?
That's a good question. I do like building really solid data sets, and I have a lot of experience doing that. So building a set for analysis is just a skill that I've honed for a really long time. And I'm actually transitioning to doing that right now at my company. We've been doing infrastructure, getting the system built up to this point, and now I'm transitioning over to actually starting to play with the data and massage it and do that curation part. So I think that's my favorite part, but I love the infrastructure part too. You know, I really enjoy that part. So I'm excited about the new opportunities, yeah, for sure. But data curation is probably my favorite. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Lisa.
Yeah.
All right, next up is Scott.
this better? This is much better? Okay, cool. I'll do the dark mode then.
All right. Your next speaker is Scott Tolinski, who's going to be speaking about reasons why I like Svelte more than React. Please give it up.
Test. Hello, test. We all good? Okay, cool. Just flag me if it's too quiet or anything at any point. My name is Scott Tolinski. I am the co-host of the Syntax podcast that I do 3 times a week with Wes Boss. We teach everything, JavaScript, React, Svelte, HTML, CSS, and we try to do it in a fun way. And the podcast has been going since 2017. And yeah, I also was formerly the owner of Level Up Tutorials. However, Level Up Tutorials, along with Syntax, has recently joined Sentry. So Sentry, if you are interested, is an awesome place to capture your errors, exceptions, and whatnot. Either way, we have a coupon code Tasty Treat that's all lowercase and all one word that gets you 2 months for free. So yeah, now I work for Sentry doing Syntax full time. So that's pretty sweet. And one of the cool things that I get to do at Syntax is work in Svelte all the time, because that's my preferred front-end framework and preferred stack typically. And so what I figured is I would just kind of run through some things, and this is all straight from Svelte's own website under the example, so you can run any of these yourself instead of slides or something. And you can see really like clearly how this system can save you time. So I'm not going to get into Svelte kit stuff, but more or less the front-end framework Svelte, what do I like so much about it, and why do I choose to use it over something like React? And a lot of it comes down to straight developer experience stuff, because everybody's improving the performance behind the scenes. You can use Preact, you can use all sorts of, or you can use Solid if you like to use JSX and still want to get a compiled front-end framework. So the perf stuff is great, and Svelte is very performant. But I think the developer experience stuff is really where it's awesome. So this very first example is just showing off, by default, scoped CSS. In Svelte, just like you have in something like Vue.js, you have the concept of a single file component. Each file gets one component. And because of that, you write your JavaScript, you write your HTML, and your CSS. Any CSS that you write in this file is automatically scoped to this file, meaning that anything that you apply, even just to a straight up P or a paragraph element or anything here, is only going to apply to the one that says these styles instead of anything inside of another one, right? You can get around this with like a global helper. But this is one thing that I really like, because in modern like componentized CSS, we're reaching for CSS and JS solutions, we're reaching for Tailwind or other things to help us componentize our CSS, or to build these CSS styles that are scoped to our specific components. And this just does it for you out of the box, which is why I don't need to use any libraries. And that's like another big part about why I like Svelte so much. For every 10 library used in React, you use maybe 1 in Svelte. You hardly have to pick up a library to do things, because the framework kind of handles everything for you. And you might wonder with that, okay, the framework does everything for you, is there bloat? Well, it compiles away what you don't use. So Svelte has a compiler that only gives you what you're currently using. So it's not like the library is shipping a ton of extra code just to support things you might not use. Now this is a basic loop in Svelte. So you have a very like mustache or spacebar style templating where you have like a hash each as, and then your properties. And it's just a straight up each, like you would have in many other templating languages, not so much like you don't need to worry about outputting an array or something like that. But one cool thing is that in Svelte, this is so stupid, but for basic loops, stuff where like your navigation is never changing, you don't need keys. You never have to think about a key. The only time you have to get into the concept of a key when you're looping or iterating over anything is when you're like hyper focused on something being added and removed from the DOM. And that's another point. I really love how Svelte doesn't try to obscure the DOM. In React world, you're always having to do things the React way to play nice with the virtual DOM. But in Svelte world, at any given point, I can do a document selector and grab an element from the DOM and have trust that I'm pulling it from the active DOM rather than having to worry about the virtual DOM. Here's another one. So this is just some basic input binding. This example, if you ever used Angular 1, is like not going to be that exciting. But in Svelte world, if you just type into this input, you get automatic data binding with just this amount of code. And all you're doing is defining a variable, and then you're binding its value to an input. Because in Svelte, you don't have to use a useState to function to create a setter in the variable. You just have the variable. It's the exact same. If you want to have a more reducer style state, more control over your state, those options are available to you. But by default, it's really simple. And that's the best part, because you do this 100 times. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, cool, check it out. So this is just another quick example of that. You have your values here. But what's interesting here is we get into a little bit more of this advanced state. And what we can do inside of Svelte, forgive me, this is all, I wonder if I can zoom out here. What we can do in Svelte is create something called a writable. And it's just an observed variable that you can pass along anywhere in your app. It doesn't have to worry about document tree or anything. You just create this variable, you export it, and then anytime you want to use it, you can run a .update function to update it. You can even set the value directly with this $ syntax. It's not on the screen right now. Or you can choose to subscribe to it and have any sort of effect happen when that value has been changed. So at its core, the state picture in Svelte can get as really simple or as really complex as you'd like it to be. Okay, thank you. Another really neat thing about this is that I mentioned there's a ton of extra stuff in the library. And one of the cool extra things is that there's a motion and an easing library and an animations library. So if you want to create a tweened variable that's just a number, you can set it to 0. Then when you update that variable, based on another easing function, it's going to go through all the numbers to create essentially like an eased number progress. So this is all comes baked into the library. You can see that all you're doing is you're creating a progress, essentially a store. You're subscribing to it here, but then you're just running .set on it. And when you run .set on it, it's creating the animation with JavaScript here. Svelte also plays really nice with animations in CSS as well. There's some really neat things. There's a baked-in transitions library. So if you want to have something do a fade in and out on the DOM, and this is it exiting and leaving the DOM. This isn't just toggling a CSS class. Literally, all you have to do is show the thing in the DOM and put a transition fade on it. And that's it. You never even have to think about it. So I do this so much, or there's an accordion one. It's not called accordion, but it's I think it's called slide. So you can use slide, instant accordion. You don't even have to think about it. Accordion's up and down. Okay, I have 2 minutes. Let's see how many more I can get through here. There's a lot of stuff I like about this. Let's not do this one. Helper classes. This is a neat little shorthand here. You can say class colon and then a variable. If that variable is a Boolean, it will automatically apply that class, meaning no more like weird ternary things, no third-party class names packages to toggle your classes. You just say class and then the Boolean value, and it will toggle that as a class itself. You could do it more complexly as well, or more intricately if you'd like. What's another cool one here? Maybe not this one. They're all cool. These are called reactive statements. By doing a $ and a colon, you can just have a variable equal to and then a count. This is essentially use effect. So this line number 5 is one use effect, and this is essentially one use effect. You never have to think about memoizing. You never have to think about watching the parameters to see if it should run or not. When doubled changed, quadruple gets changed. When count gets changed, doubled gets changed. And that's all you have to worry about. There's no performance implications of that. It's all automatically memoized for you. It's just out the box like that. Lastly, and then I can take questions really quick. This is the, I have so many more features. I could just keep going all day on this. This is why I like this so much. But This is a really interesting one. It's called a action. So we've created a click on outside action here, and then using a directive. Where is it? Remember directives? Those are back. Let's see. Oh, right here. Use click outside. So by saying use and then a directive or an action in Svelte, what this does is it gives us life cycle methods on a DOM element without creating a component. So you just have a function here. This function runs when that HTML element is run, and you get access to the node itself. So if I wanted to say, hey, I have this current node, you click outside of it, you're just checking to see if the event listener includes essentially the node. And then you also have a destroy function at the bottom, which is for your life cycle, right? But you can see I click outside and it's gone. So either way, you can essentially obfuscate a whole bunch of stuff that's attached directly to the DOM inside of just one little nice directive. And those are just some of the things I like more about Svelte than React.
Cool. I think you have time for maybe 2 or 3 questions. Anyone have a question?
What's up? Okay.
So this looks really cool. It reminds me a lot of the things that I really liked about Angular and missed when I'm using React. What do you think it's going to take for companies to start shifting to maybe using Svelte more than React?
Yeah, a lot of it I think is just using it. You know, Svelte 3 came out at a time when React was so mature already and so widely used. But you know, Apple Music, the latest Apple Music is built on Svelte. You know, people are using it. Companies are starting to hire with it. And one of the cool things about it is that so many of the skill sets that you gain through it are DOM APIs. That you're not like having to learn a whole bunch of Svelte specific stuff. There's a handful of Svelte specific stuff, and the rest is like actual DOM and browser APIs, which will always come in handy.
No, yeah, that sounds great. Thank you.
Yep. What's up?
Oh, thanks. How does CSS cascade down through the components that it generates? Does it just automatically flow down, or is it inside of the? I forget what it's called. There's like where you close the CSS.
It will automatically scope to that component.
Okay.
There is like a function called global that you can wrap around your CSS to make it global.
Okay.
But when you end up building in a component-based flow, it's like almost like you always prefer. Like if you're having to use the global, it almost feels like a code smell, you know?
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
Do you have any large example apps that maybe you've built or that you reference built in Svelte that really tackle some of the edge cases?
Yeah, I've built, so Level Up Tutorials was built in SvelteKit, so that was a huge migration for me because it was originally written in React. But I cover everything, or I had from that. It was originally a GraphQL API, eventually went to just server-side Svelte actions for data and stuff. But that hits everything, auth, user accounts, you know, general database stuff, animations. It's a big site full of a few thousand videos. But the new syntax site, syntax.fm, is going to be on SvelteKit. It's in progress, and hopefully it's going to be out like in a month or so.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Alrighty, that's pretty much it. We have to be out of here by like 8:10, 8:15, so if you could help put the chairs up, that'd be great. I just want to have everyone give a big thanks to the crew. So big thanks to Marlena for keeping time and also getting the news. Yeah. Thanks to Will. Will wrangled all of the speakers. He's been taking pictures. He got everything set up at the beginning. Give it up for Will. And Josh as well. Josh has been taking speakers. He taped the wires to keep us safe. He made signage, put out the chairs. Give it up for Josh. And then also Cash, she put together that wonderful buffet for you all. And then me. Cool. So again, DenverScript.com has all our info if you want to submit a talk. DenverScript@gmail.com if you want to sponsor us or you just want to reach out. And the next one will likely be July 25th. We're trying to do every fourth Tuesday, but keep an eye on DenverScript.com for the next one. So we'll see you all. Thank you.
Thank you.